Thank you for joining us for another episode in this series of studies of the book of the Revelation of John. In this episode, which is part 6, we will examine chapter 12, which will be about the woman and the dragon. We will use some of the 26 core imagery keywords, as fully explained in part 1. Please watch part 1, if you have not done so already. The first imagery key phrase for this slide is sun, moon and stars, which symbolizes the nation of Israel. The second keyword is stars, which symbolizes angels. The third keyword is day, which symbolizes a year. The fourth keyword is person, which symbolizes a country, state or nation. The fifth keyword is earth, which symbolizes Africa. The sixth keyword is tail, which symbolizes false prophets or deceptive advisors. The seventh keyword is dragon, which symbolizes Satan. The eighth keyword is wilderness, which symbolizes other, strange countries. We will now read from Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 to 6. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head, a crown of 12 stars. In this verse, the sun, moon and stars are used in the same context, symbolizing the nation of Israel. For the key word that a person is a nation, and also that there are 12 stars, Jesus wants to make very sure that we know that this woman symbolizes the nation of Israel, and not an actual person. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. Verse 2 means that the nation of Israel symbolized by the woman, is ready to bring forth the new Messiah, who is Jesus. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. From our list of imagery keywords, we know that the red dragon symbolizes Satan. We will speculate that the 7 heads with crowns of Satan symbolizes 7 major areas on earth, over which Satan rules. Those may be the following: Eurasia, Africa, North America, South America, England or the United Kingdom, Japan, Australia. We will also speculate that 10 horns always represent the most powerful countries in the world, and that those may change from time to time. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child, as soon as it was born. From our list of core imagery keywords, we know the tail symbolizes false prophets or advisors, and that the earth is Africa, and that stars, without the sun and moon, are angels. This means that Satan's own false prophets were able to convince 1/3 of all the angels in heaven to follow Satan in his attempt to overthrow God. We will now look at a short summary of how to understand events that led up to the events of verse 4. Satan was created as the highest being before the throne of God. Satan enjoyed, and he was proud, to be the highest being before God. When God created man, Satan became jealous that man was created in God's image. He allowed himself to become corrupted with his jealousy. Satan thought he was smarter than God, and that he could hide his corruption from God. Satan then corrupted mankind, to disobey the commands of God. He thought that God would never know, but God always knew. Satan thought that God would exterminate mankind. But it did not happen according to Satan's plan. God did punish mankind, but in His grace, God made a promise of salvation for mankind. Once that plan did not work, Satan started to relentlessly accuse people before God, in hopes that God would relent and exterminate mankind. Satan tried to gaslight God, and to hide his own corruption from God. Satan had no idea that God knew all along what he was planning. When God did not exterminate people, and Satan realized that he could not manipulate God the way he wanted to, Satan started to plan to overthrow God. To hide his corruption from God, Satan bided his time. He has not allowed demons to possess people, because he did not want to alert God to the fact that he and his angels were corrupted. Jesus left his throne in heaven, to be born as the promised Messiah on earth, according to the plan of God. Once Jesus left the throne, Satan went all in on his corruption, and he allowed demons to possess people. Demonic possession became a common issue in Israel by the time Jesus was born. Satan's plan was simply to find and kill Jesus as soon as he was born. Satan's false prophets prophesied a false prophecy to all the angels, and successfully convinced 1/3 of all angels to follow Satan. The third of angels who became fallen angels came to the earth, which symbolizes in this case the land of Israel, to find Jesus when he is born, and to immediately kill him. Satan enlists the help of King Herod of Israel. Herod was alerted that the Messiah was born by the wise men from the east. Herod enlists the help from the chief priests and scribes to find out where the Messiah was born. They were able to tell Herod that it was in Bethlehem, and Herod had the youngest children of Bethlehem killed. The priests and scribes were deliberately complicit in Satan's plot to overthrow God. They knew that Herod would take care of business and kill little children, yet they helped him to accomplish that. The final outcome of Satan's plan was that it failed. Jesus was not killed as a baby, and he was born as the Messiah, as God has promised. Satan then worked to kill Jesus, once he knew that Jesus was the promised Messiah. This led to the fulfillment of God's promise that the Messiah would die for the sins of all of mankind, and that all who believe will be saved. Satan's clever plans all came to nothing. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. The meaning of the child who was caught up to God and his throne simply means to us that Jesus was glorified, and then he returned back to the throne of God. There will be a time period in the future when Jesus will rule all nations with a rod of iron. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. From our list of core imagery keywords, a wilderness symbolizes another country, a strange country, or other countries, and a day symbolizes a year. We can derive that verse 6 means that the nation of Israel was scattered to other countries. They have continued to keep their customs, and remembered that they are the people of God. The nation of Israel was to stay scattered in other countries for a total of 1,260 years, symbolized by the 1,260 days. We will now list the events which were fulfilled by verse 6. In the year 637, Islam completes the siege of Jerusalem, and conquers the nation of Israel. Many Israelites flee and relocate to many other countries, symbolized by the wilderness. In the year 1897, exactly 1,260 years later, the First Zionist Congress is established. This is when the Israelites knew that they would get back their lands. The year after that, in 1898, the Second Zionist Congress was established. These two congresses had the purpose to establish the nation of Israel, which was finally fulfilled in 1948. From all of this, we know that it is true that the nation of Israel were scattered in the wilderness for a total of 1,260 years, before they were able to return to their home country. The imagery keyword for this slide is Earth, which symbolizes Africa, Israel and Saudi Arabia. We will now read from Revelation chapter 12, from verse 7 to verse 12. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. The meaning of verses 7 to 9 is, that after Satan, symbolized by the dragon, and his angels thought they might have killed Jesus, they attacked the kingdom of heaven, to take control of the throne of Jesus. They lost the war, and were thrown out of heaven. We read in Matthew 11 verses 11 and 12. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding he that is least in the kingdom of heaven, is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. We can derive the following. No man is greater than John the Baptist. This means that John the Baptist is more important before God than any other man on earth. John the Baptist is less than the least in the kingdom of heaven. This means that the least important in heaven is more important before God than the greatest on earth. Who was John the Baptist? From the days of John the Baptist the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. This means that the heaven was under attack by Satan since John the Baptist became prominent. We will speculate that Satan and his angels thought that they might have been successful in killing Jesus, when Herod murdered the children of Bethlehem. When they saw John the Baptist, they knew that John was not the Messiah, and that probably strengthened their belief further, that Jesus was dead. They then attacked the kingdom of heaven, to take control of the throne of Jesus in heaven. In John 12 verse 31, we read, Now is the judgment of this world, now shall the prince of this world be cast out. Jesus told this to his disciples after he was baptized, which means that Satan was casted out of heaven shortly after that. If we read further in Luke 10 verse 18, Jesus said, And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Jesus told us that he saw how Satan was thrown from heaven and how he fell to earth. It means that the war was already over, and Satan was already thrown out of heaven, before Jesus ascended back into heaven. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. In the book of Job, we can learn how Satan was in heaven, and how Satan relentlessly accused Job of only acting like a good man, because of all the blessings he received from God. Let us read Job 1 verses 6 to 10. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God, and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord, and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. We can learn from the book of Job, that Satan still had a place in heaven in Job's time. We also know that Satan still relentlessly accused people, in the time of Daniel, and King Darius of Persia. In Zechariah 3 verses 1 and 2, we read, And he showed me Joshua the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand, to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Satan was still busy accusing people before God, which stopped after he was casted out of heaven. We can thus conclude, that Satan was only casted out of heaven much later, as described in Revelation 12 verse 9, which we concluded was during the time of Jesus. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. In verse 11 we learn, that the blood of Jesus, together with personal testimony, and complete devotion to Jesus, placing Jesus above all, even above one's own life, overcomes Satan. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea! For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Verse 12 means, that everybody and all beings in heaven are glad that Satan finally overplayed his hand, and was thrown out of heaven. His never-ending accusations were very tiresome. However, the people on earth will experience worse than ever temptations, trials and tribulations. Satan is angry, because his plan that seemed like a brilliant no-brainer was indeed an incredibly stupid plan in hindsight. It is not only Satan that is angry, but also all of the angels who were deceived to join Satan. These angels are angry not only with Satan, with God, and with people, but also with themselves. The first imagery keyword for this slide is a day, which symbolizes a year. The second keyword is earth, which symbolizes Africa, Israel and Saudi Arabia. The third keyword is wilderness, which symbolizes strange countries. The fourth keyword is dragon, which symbolizes Satan. We will now read from Revelation, chapter 12 from verse 13 to verse 17. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. This means, that Satan is very angry with the Israelites, when he was thrown to the earth. We can derive that when Satan was thrown out of heaven, he was above the land of Israel, because Jesus was able to see it happen. That also means, that he was thrown to earth, which symbolizes Africa, Israel, and Saudi Arabia, and not into the sea. In his anger, Satan then motivated faithless people to hate, persecute and exterminate Israelites. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. This means, that God gave the woman, or the nation of the Israelites, a means, by which a number of the Israelites manages to escape, and this causes the nation of Israel to survive. A time, and times, and half a time, adds up to 3.5 prophetic years, which is 1,260 actual years. This was fulfilled between the years of 637 and 1797, between the times when Israel was conquered by Islam, and when the nation of Israel knew that their land would be returned to them, when the first Zionist Congress was created. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water, as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Water symbolizes many different peoples. We read in Revelation 17 verse 15. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. This means thus, that Satan is very angry and he motivates the Romans, other nations and other groups of people to hate, persecute and exterminate the Israelites. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Verse 16 means, that Israelites through the ages were able to escape persecution and find safety in Africa. The first example was per the writings of Eusebius, in regards to the siege of Jerusalem in the year 70. With the help of the prophecies of Jesus, Christian Israelites were able to determine when the destruction of Jerusalem was at hand, and fled from Jerusalem, to a town named Pella in Jordan, where they were safe from the persecution of the Romans. The second example is that many Israelites fled to Africa to escape Visigoth and Roman Catholic persecution in Europe during the Middle Ages. The third example is that when the country of Israel was re-established, since the Holocaust, that many Israelites started to return to their own country, where they are free of persecution. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. This means that Satan was especially angry with the Israelites, especially those who accepted Jesus as their Messiah, because they can overcome him with the blood of Jesus, together with personal testimony, and complete devotion to Jesus. The woman and the dragon are events that happened, at least right before the birth of Jesus, till he died on the cross, and the dragon will continue to make war with Israel and Christianity, until Jesus returns. This concludes part 6 of this series of Revelation, chapter 12, in which we examine the woman and the dragon. Please consider watching the next video, which will be about the beast from the sea, and the beast from the earth, in chapter 13. Thank you for watching this video.